from Psychologies magazine. We are talking today about how to kickstart your life. Hello, Lucy.
Hello.
Lovely to see your smiling face. Here we are. We're both working from home, and look, we have a special working from home special on Psychologies magazine. Are you working from home too? Lucy, today we're going to be talking about how to kickstart our lives at the beginning of 2021. Lucy Griffiths is the Psychologies columnist who talks how to be an introvert in an extrovert world. And Lucy has also co-created all our brilliant new courses that we are promoting and sending out into the world right now. Lucy, hello, welcome. Hello. So
when it comes to kickstarting our life, I think one of the key things that we all want to think about is, this time of year is a period of reset. We're moving into the Christmas period. It's the darkest, coldest period. And so actually this is a time for you to rethink and reimagine how you want to live next year. Now, the wonderful Suzy has an amazing system for doing this. And she really asks those juicy questions that are so important to help you to move to that next stage. Now, Suzy, what would be a question that is the best takeaway that we can have for today of what is a good question to ask yourself to start thinking in this period where it's dark, it's cold, to start to get us going?
I mean, you're right. It's a very odd, new year, new you. We've got all of those kind of headlines on our next magazine, but it's a really strange time, especially after the year we've had, to start making a big leap, to make a big plan for yourself. It's really quite strange when, this morning it was so dark and I got up and I was like, I really don't want to get out of bed. And, I'm still trying to create a big vision for 2021. So how do we do it? So I think I was
going to say with creating a vision for 2021, I sort of feel like it's been such a strange year. I don't know what to plan. And so I think that's where I almost feel like it's baby steps for right now, because it feels like, having this big plan seems like, but actually the baby steps while it's dark and cold, while it feels, so what is the baby step for right now?
And you're absolutely spot on. So rather than creating a big vision, the best thing to do is to literally climb into bed and to do the work. So it's the inner journey that needs to be done now. So we don't have to go out into the world. We can sit in our cave, get under the duvet and start gently kind of looking at the belief systems that you have that you need to perhaps let go of. The belief systems from 2020 that have maybe underpinned some of maybe the negative decisions that you've made, and what are the beliefs that you need for 2021. So the beliefs are one of the key inner building blocks to creating a wonderful life, to creating a vision. And without those building blocks in place, the foundations can be really, really wobbly. So, you might have the biggest vision ever, but if you don't believe you're good enough, if you don't believe the world will support you, if you don't believe that people will support you, if you don't believe that people will buy your product, for example, or you don't believe in yourself, the whole thing falls down without you don't even get to move forward. So a really key piece of inner work you can do is identify the beliefs that are currently running your show. How do you do that? So the first thing is to perhaps look at things that aren't working in your life. So maybe look at, this doesn't feel particularly good to do, but if you kind of look at the 10 arguments you've had in the last year, the 10 pieces of conflict, what is going on? I did this recently. I was like, I couldn't understand. I've got a new boyfriend and I couldn't understand why we were having quite a lot of conflict around something. So I thought, okay, I'll just write down a big list of what we were rowing about, but what was going on underneath. And my belief was that I was feeling judged. He's a bit of a neat freak. I'm not. So I was feeling judged, but that was not the truth. It was just a belief I had. And it's like, okay, if I could let go of that belief of feeling judged and instead made it, this person is trying to support and help me move on with my life. That was a great, so leave it where you judged, let that go, and then stop. And so you let go of it and you say, right, you first of all conscious and aware of a belief that might be running your show. So it's identifying what's going on underneath the conflicts, and then think, okay, that's not serving me to believe that I'm being judged. But what about if I had a new belief system, which is all about being supported? This person is trying to support and help me. So what if I move to that belief system? Wow. So that is, and that completely changed everything. So when I get that, I'm not sure about that, I'm like, okay, he's trying to help and support me do this. And it's really, you know, for me in a relationship way, it's completely changed things around. But you can do it whether it's a relationship, whether it's your work. Look at the conflicts you're having, and what is it that's underneath? Is it, are you feeling, a lot of work issues can be, I don't feel good enough. So when somebody says, oh, can I give you some feedback on that? They're genuinely giving you feedback, which is great. This is exactly what you need to move the business forward. But if you collapse in on yourself because you believe you're not good enough, it's hopeless. But then if you hear that feedback, it's affecting you.
It's when you have those moments where it's something that, if you have this belief, and very often these beliefs are from childhood. We develop many of our beliefs under the age of 5, and we are just reprogramming, we're rerunning those scripts every single day of those beliefs that we had, that, you know, whether it's we're not meant to speak up, like we were always told to be quiet as a child, or whether we were told that we weren't good enough, or we were compared to a sibling, whatever it may be, those same belief systems will keep running. And, you know, whatever relationship we're in, whatever business or work that we do, we are going to reprogram and rerun those scripts. So the feedback from the boss or the feedback from the boyfriend, it will be the same feeling of like, oh, someone's telling me I'm not good enough. And which is obviously not what they're doing, but we sort of have that filter, that vision where we see it as that, and it's moving that out of the way. And so being able to move it out of the way, going under the duvet, doing that, even just listening. I talk about Pure Rasa on YouTube, and just listening to some meditation and listening to something like that, and journaling can help you to uncover those blocks, whatever works for you. But it's being able to recognize and identify them, because when you know that they're there, you can do something about it. If you're subconsciously accepting it, then it's harder to do something about it.
So it's about a blind spot. So for me, so the key is when you're blaming the other person, it's a blind spot. Because it's like, if it's all their fault, which obviously it was all my boyfriend's fault, all his fault, then it's a blind spot because you can't see it. So what you've got to do is say, okay, humbly and with a sense of humor, go, okay, what do I need to own here? How can I own this? So when you look at it, I can't see it, because the problem, you're exactly right. If you cannot see what belief is running your show, you can't do anything about it. So as soon as I could identify this sense of feeling judged, which took me right back to my childhood, of feeling judged, the critical parent, that perhaps all of us have had at one point, whether it's a teacher or a parent, someone telling you what to do. It took me right back to that feeling. Horrendous. But that's not what was happening. People are trying to help you, as you say. So being able to identify what was running you is key to this. And you've got to just, for me, it's just kind of really walking the talk. So being triggered, so this idea of being triggered, I'm being triggered, but look below the trigger. It's great if you're triggered, because then you're like, okay, I'm triggered, let's look below the trigger, and what am I believing about myself or the world. Pema Chodron, our Backpage columnist, who's absolutely fantastic, our Buddhist nun, she says, she's like 90, a Buddhist nun and the most enlightened person that I've ever known. And she talks about, I'm triggered, great, because that means I can look. And there's a place where I need to shine a light, which I just love that. So it's a lovely kind of idea of shining a light. So in these dark times that we're in, you know, in this winter where we're coming up to the darkest time of the year, you can be quietly shining a light in all your dark corners, just in preparation for the year ahead. I mean, this year has been, it's triggers all. It's brought all, you know, all the usual mechanisms that we can use to escape, you know, buying things or being busy, or we've all been just stuck indoors and, you know, isolated away from all of our usual mechanisms for escape. And so now it's let's use this time, this last bit of time, to shine that light of awareness on our own inner workings. It's really good. So Lucy, have you got an example of when you changed a belief and it's changed your life?
So I used to think for a long time that I wasn't good enough. That was, you know, I sort of carried that belief system. And it is about it's being able to recognize it. And sometimes you need help to uncover and unpick those beliefs. And recognizing that you need help to unpick them is also, that's okay. You need, people can help you, coaches can help you, whatever it may be, to therapists. All of that work is amazing to help you unearth yourself, do the inner work. And you know, definitely for me, it was a coaching session that helped me sort of unpick that belief. And then once I was able to recognize that, I was then able to see that when I was being triggered by feeling a criticism, feeling some kind of negative energy towards me, I was able to sort of recognize I'm being triggered, and then reprogram to say, okay, they're attempting to say something that's it's a positive feedback to me. It's not negative. And I could have a little conversation with myself so that I could then manage around this situation, even though my inner child might have been triggered and like, oh no. And it's recognizing those moments.
I mean, you say that, so that's really interesting, the inner child. So I think I know that we've just had an article about it in Psychologies a couple of issues ago. It's about being able to acknowledge that part of you, that vulnerable part of you that was hurt as a child, and be able to, but we're not children anymore. And where we can parent that inner child. So it's kind of, you know, one of the great exercises to do is to kind of do a journaling exercise of, hello, little Lucy, hello, little Suzy, what do you need, what do you want, what do you know? And for me, it's a lot about reassurance, or, you know, just comforting myself. You know, it's a self-soothing in a way, which all the therapy tells you about is how to soothe, you know. It's really
and writing to the little version of you, writing those letters does really help. And at the times when you're making that big decision, you're making that big leap, that you nurture. So when you start making the plans for next year, that you recognize that inner version of you, and you're nurturing them in a way, saying it's going to be okay. I know you have those feelings of fear or some kind of concern. I've got this. I'm going to hold your hand. It will be okay. And being able to say that, identify that inner you, that little Lucy, little version of you, your inner child, it really does help. And that definitely for me has been, when I feel that moment when I'm triggered about making a big decision, I do that work.
Yeah. And then, I mean, there's a lot of different therapeutic models around, you know, acknowledging. So I have an inner teenager as well, who's really rebellious and sort of goes, I'm going to do this anyway. And then there's the inner child, and then there's my inner warrior. And there's all of these different aspects of yourself that is, the more you can get to know all of these different aspects of you and accept them and love them. You know, I remember, you know, in a therapy session once, someone talking to me about my inner child, and I was like, oh no, she's such a whinger, get her out of the way. Basically, I'm rejecting a part of myself, you know, and it's, you know, people talk, you know, forever, don't they, about accepting yourself, and it's sometimes difficult to know what that actually means. So to kind of work with these aspects of yourself, whether it's your inner, you know, inner child, your inner teenager, your inner warrior, whatever it is it's a very practical way, and writing letters to that part of yourself, Lucy, I think is a genius idea, and it really works. So even if you think, oh, what a load of nonsense, okay, it's a belief you may have, but just try it and see what comes of it.
I mean, one of the things that definitely, I was having a session just a couple of weeks ago, and we were basically realizing that my inner child felt she wants me to have a bit more fun. And so it was just, going and doing silly fun things.
Yeah.
So, whether it's blowing bubbles or, chasing unicorns, whatever it may be, that doing fun things. So it doesn't have to be like, actually it's like being able to say,
yeah,
I'm going to go and just do some more baking, or just run through the woods pretending I'm 5 again, whatever it is that, nourishes you and your soul.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's so true. I mean, Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, who we interviewed recently at Psychologies, who we love, I mean, she talks about taking yourself on an artist date. And, I used to think, oh, I've got to go to an opera or something. But actually, oh, no, just make unicorns out of clay, or, spread glitter everywhere, or, and that's the thing that lights you up. So that's, it is great advice, Lucy, to kind of just be playful in your self-development. It doesn't have to be hard work all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I just bought some cards, actually, and I'm going to make my own Christmas cards this year, and just kind of, I'm going to do it with my son, so it's fun. But basically, by doing that, it's me being 5 again, and I think it's allowing yourself to have those moments of fun as well, particularly in a year like this.
Yeah, particularly in a year like this. What a great way to end the year, making your own cards with glitter and unicorns. Fantastic, Lucy, brilliant. And so we do have a brilliant course, Create the Life That You Want. See the link below. It covers all of this and helps you connect with your inner world and shine some lights in all your dark corners. And Lucy and I are still doing it, and it does work, and it is brilliant. So do join us, and this is a fantastic community that we have, that we are all creating our lives that we want together. So it's really wonderful. Lucy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
And speak to you